All right, we are back here on this show. We're going to swiftly jump into the NFL real quickly here before we come back to the NBA. Obviously, the playoffs are here. There was a report or multiple reports that dropped, this morning in regards to Bill Belichick that I think is worth mentioning right now. The report is that Robert Kraft warned the Falcons not to trust Bill Belichick. And the question we have, is Bill Belichick's reputation tarnish around the league? And Zach, the mic is yours.
So I wanted to expand on that too, Will. Everything you said was true, but there were a couple more key points I wanted to bring to the table. So Bill Belichick felt he was getting the Falcons job, and he told owner Arthur Blank that he wanted the job and didn't need full control of the team. That was super interesting to me because that was the one concern even I, a Belichick supporter, really was thinking about. Like, man, I could maybe understand why an owner wouldn't want to give Bill Belichick full personnel control after everything that happened in New England, and especially looking at what that roster is looking like right now. So that was surprising to me that he said, I will take the Falcons job just to be the head coach, not as the GM. And then also it's expected that next year Belichick is going to throw his ring in the hat and is interested in the Eagles job, the Cowboys job, the Giants job. But a close friend of Belichick mentioned in the article that he doesn't think Belichick will ever be a head coach in the NFL again unless it's for Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. So I'll say this in response to those points, guys. Like, I don't really understand what Robert Kraft is doing. We know that it ended poorly in New England. We know that he's still probably not happy with him for letting Tom Brady go. And that was really the first straw that really started to stir the drink and signal the end of the Belichick era in New England. But they had a great run. He was there for a long time, and I don't blame Robert Kraft for moving on from him. It was time. The end was near. Bill Belichick had to go. But was Robert Kraft worried that he was going to go to Atlanta and start winning again, and he didn't want that to happen again? I just feel like Robert Kraft is very eager right now to try to prove to everyone that, Tom Brady gets his credit. Oh, Bill Belichick, he gets his credit, but I'm not getting the credit I deserve for being the owner of the team. And while being an owner of a team is very important, when you have 2 decades of greatness and winning Super Bowls, let's just face the facts. You're not the most important figure. Tom Brady is more important than you in this. Bill Belichick is more important than you in this. And I just feel like Robert Kraft, his ego, like a lot of these other owners right now, is just huge. And I think we're going to get to a point where he just starts running this Patriots franchise into the ground. They have a huge decision to make. Who are they going to draft with the number 3 overall pick? The guy making that decision, it looks like, is a guy by the name of Elliot Wolf, the son of Ron Wolf, former legendary NFL executive. He's not even officially the GM yet. He's just the one making the important decisions. If you trust him with those decisions, why aren't you hiring him? I just don't really understand what he's doing. Also, I'm not sure if you guys watch this, but that Apple TV documentary, The Dynasty, about the Brady Belichick Patriots, I don't love the way Bill Belichick was portrayed in that. And Robert Kraft had basically the final say. He made Bill Belichick look like an idiot. He made Bill Belichick look very unlikable, which he is, but I just don't understand what the need for that is, low blowing a guy that won you 6 Super Bowls. And one last point, and Will, I think I brought this up a couple months ago when the coaching carousel was in full swing and we were talking about the subject, like, is Bill Belichick ever going to coach again? Bill Belichick went on the Pat McAfee show today on an interview. He's going to be working the NFL on ESPN's draft coverage next week. And I think he's going to be a very likable figure in media. And I think he's going to be very good at it. And I think he's going to remind people and fans around the league that he's still Bill Belichick. He's still arguably the greatest coach of all time. And I think a team that doesn't want him next year is going to really regret it. I look at those 3 teams mentioned in the article: Philly, Dallas, the Giants. They should all be interested. Buffalo, if things don't work out for Sean McDermott this year, if they fall short of expectations, they should seriously be interested. And I just don't understand what Robert Kraft was doing here. He denied the reports. I don't believe that, though. I think everything reported in this article is true. And it's just really sad. It is.
Yeah, I agree. With most of this stuff, there's certain things that I'm like, speculation a little bit, but it's an opinion. That's what we do. As far as the report, I want to focus on the report real quickly here. I think there's some smoke to it. Why? Because of things that we know of before or should know. For example, Bill Belichick interviewed for this job 2 times. Okay. The likelihood of you landing a job when you do a second interview is very likely, especially with a guy with his resume. You would think is very likely. So, for example, before we know or knew that Raheem Morris was going to get the job, let's say he interviews a second time and Bill Belichick interviews a second time, you would think the guy with the best resume is probably going to land that job, which will be Bill Belichick. He didn't, right? And the second interview was 4.5 hours long. The hell was y'all talking about? Was y'all playing together? Like, did y'all go to the strip club together? Throw a couple bands? Y'all in Atlanta? Okay. Did you go to Sweet Pepper Chicken Lou? Whatever that restaurant is called? Like, what was y'all doing for 4.5 hours? If it wasn't negotiating the terms of the contract or the terms of the situation, I don't know. Obviously, those reports, everything led me to believe that Belichick was the front runner for this job, even before the meetings. But somehow it didn't happen. I do agree that I don't think Bill Belichick would have wanted or commanded, roster, say and power say or whatever in the power struggle, because if Atlanta was your only market, you would not milk that market by asking and requesting things from a spot that doesn't have any leverage. So I just don't agree with that side of the things, which makes this report make sense to me based on me saying on this show in off air in the chat that I believe that Bill Belichick was going to be a Falcon. At one point I said it was going to happen. Lil Shadamas. Obviously, Lil Shadamas could be facts or right on certain things, but things could alternate history, right? Obviously, I'm not going to go there, Sean McDermott. I'm going to move away from the spirit of negativity. I'm not even going to tell you what I was going to use as an example. I'm just not going to go there, Sean McDermott. Don't even try to. Anyway, salute to everybody. We all Americans here in this world, right? It's funny, Zach. I had to catch myself. Sean McDermott is a bad influence on people. Anyway, I want to talk about Bill Belichick for a second, even further, because I think when you talk about, him as an individual and Robert Kraft and that dynamic, obviously he had a lot of power. And I always said this on this show. GM Belichick did a terrible job for Coach Belichick to clean up. He left a terrible mess for the Coach Belichick to clean up. And obviously it affected the perception around the league and his perception around the league and his reputation around the league, because he was operating from that 1999 playbook, missing on draft picks, questionable draft picks, the failed Bosch development of Mac Jones, primarily due to roster construction. Okay, so he's a dinosaur in the eyes of the league. To me, he is. And I think a lot of teams, and I'm closing here with my first lap, I think a lot of owners are going in the direction of player-relatable players, right? Because we have to realize that the last time Bill Belichick was on the unemployment line, that was before the early 2000s. The hiring process is different. And then you take that in consideration and how the league is trending into more player-relatable coaches compared to the hard-nosed coaching. That's why Eric Bieniemy can't get a job, because he's coaching in 1999. You can't talk to these players a certain type of way. He's very hard-nosed. And a lot of coaches owners, they want player-relatable guys like a D'Amico Ryans, like oh my God, I'm blanking on the name. Atlanta new head coach Raheem Morris, right? Like Carolina,
Dave Canales.
Dave Canales, right? Those guys over here. I don't know why I'm blanking on these names right now. I'm just blanking, period. But anyway, speaking of blank, Arthur Blank,
I like that.
Right, he made sure that he hired a player-relatable coach, not a dinosaur. And I'm gonna leave it here.
It's funny. As the question is phrased, it says, is Bill Belichick's reputation tarnished around the league? And I don't think so. I think actually it's amplified even further. I think this actually creates a bigger name for Bill Belichick for a lot of teams who may be looking for that new coach down the line. We was all praising Brian Daboll and what a terrific job he did that first year on the Giants. And then once everything went crashing down, we hear all the negative news about Brian Daboll, how he yells at guys, how he dismantles them, and how he's a basically this dictator on the team that's telling guys left, right, what to do, even on defense, and taking offensive coordinator responsibilities from this, you know, and it's like, all right, well, that's part of the game. That's a coach, right? And he's already getting the boot. Like, I don't understand it. I'm pretty sure if he had the reputation of Bill Belichick, he would stay there, right? It's interesting how all that kind of happens. And I think a lot of teams who are, like Lou just stated, player relatable coaches, once their careers or the franchise not moving in a direction that they want it to go, they look at the Bill Belichicks, the guys with the track record of dominance, of excellent defensive play, being able to move the chains, getting their offensive players moving. Bill Belichick is a guy, you know, hate him, love him. He's a guy who won championships. He was a guy who squeezed the most out of all of his damn players. You know, he didn't go out and get the superstars of the world. He created the superstars of the world. He created the guys that were kind of overlooked in a sense. The guys who didn't have the most outstanding athletic talent and all these different things, but he molded them into these excellent defensive players, Hall of Famers, you know, offensive gurus, whatever you want to call it. It came from Bill Belichick. And I think a lot of teams in this upcoming season, when their seasons are not going well, they're going to look at him to take the reins, because sometimes you need an old school coach to teach discipline to the young team, to the young guys, because football's hard. It's not a coddled sport. You have to have some thick skin in order to play the game. And Bill Belichick ensures that every player on that roster is going to be thick-skinned and ready to play on Sunday. And that's something that a lot of teams need. So, yeah, that's why I said his reputation grew even more after seeing that report.
Yo, Zach, I want to jump in here. I was like praying. I'm like, yo, Zay, I hope you close. Not because you're not speaking facts, but because I ain't want my point that I had in my head to drift away, which it didn't, thank God. Because there's a very important point, too, that I think is going to go under the radar here. I think when you talk about Bill Belichick and the arrogance and not being player relatable, I think it's reflective in his coaching tree as well. Brian Flores, we know that he had a stint with the Dolphins where he wasn't relatable to Tua. He didn't even like Tua. He didn't want Tua to be there. And that locker room was semi-divided. When you look at the dude, Josh McDaniels, I'm glad I remember his name too, okay, with the Raiders, he'd never been a player relatable coach. And it was reflective. Players did not play hard for him. He got fired twice, okay? And he turned down a job with the Colts as well. So the things that Robert Kraft is saying about Bill Belichick is also reflective in the guys that came from Bill Belichick. And I don't think there's no coincidence in that.
But, like, let me ask you guys, do we really think that Robert Kraft is doing this and telling this information to Arthur Blank because he's like, oh, I don't want you to go through the same struggle?
I think what happened is, I think the report is semi-overblown, but it's still factual. Like, I think the way how I think, and this is all speculation because I'm not there, but I think that Arthur Blank may have hit up Robert Kraft. I don't think Robert Kraft willingly went to Arthur Blank and say, yo, my man, do not hire this guy. I think Arthur Blank, man. Like, I think Arthur Blank wanted to know from Robert Kraft's viewpoint, what was, you know, should I hire Bill Belichick or not? Give me some tips. And I think Robert Kraft was just honest. Like, yo, this guy's a nut. Like, with all due respect. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what happened.
It says in the report that Robert Kraft reportedly called Blank to warn him not to trust Belichick. Commanders minority owner Magic Johnson advocated for Bill, but Josh Harris, who had spoken privately to Robert Kraft about Belichick, decided not to. So Robert Kraft voluntarily called Arthur Blank and said, do not trust this guy. Like,
I mean, look, if that report is true, okay, because, you know, we don't have the evidence, but if that report is true, and I could react to that report as if it was true, I would say that, yeah, I don't think Robert Kraft should have done that. I don't think it's a good look. I think, you know, Belichick is no longer with the team. Allow him to chase his next endeavors. You know, when y'all had that send-off, you know, in New England, which I watched, y'all made it seem like this guy was a Don Dada again. Like, even in the firing, it was almost like a firing appreciation type thing, ceremony that y'all threw for this guy, and to go behind his back and tell Arthur Blank not to hire him, then I think it's an idiot move, because it's like, okay, like, you took forever to fire him, number one. You had to send off, number two, and when you highlighted his achievements, and then to go around and do that, I don't think that's a good look. So if that report is true, then I do have a slightly different spin on the situation. It doesn't change how I feel about Bill Belichick. I respect his resume, But I think any organization that gets Bill Belichick is getting the entire Bill Belichick, is getting power Bill Belichick, even if he doesn't ask for it, even if you don't believe him, which I don't think these teams do believe that he doesn't want power, because once you have power, you don't want to relinquish power, right? You're bringing that there. You're bringing his resume with you. So there's expectations. You're bringing his outdated philosophy with you. There's a lot of things that you're bringing in when you bring in a guy like Bill Belichick, and I don't think these teams wanted anything to do with it. I think the Chargers, they had it in their minds that they were Jim Harbaugh or bust, right? The Panthers, they knew they wanted a quarterback-friendly coach to develop Bryce Young. That was Dave Canales, right? When you look at the Raiders, they just got off of Josh McDaniels, who was a Bill Belichick disciple. They don't want Bill Belichick. Trust me on that. The Titans let go Mike Vrabel because they wanted a coach that could work in tandem with the GM. They didn't want Bill Belichick in what he may want as far as power in the power struggle. So there was no way that Bill Belichick was going to get a job unless the Cowboys and the Eagles got rid of their coaches and fired their coaches after one and done, outings. But as far as that report about it being the Cowboys or he never coaching again, well, somebody wake Jerry Jones up because he's sure been sleeping.
Yeah, like you just can't tell me the Cowboys are in a better spot with Mike McCarthy as their head coach than they would be with Bill Belichick or even the Eagles. And I like the Eagles offseason, but you can't tell me they're in a better spot right now with Nick Sirianni as their head coach than Bill Belichick as their head coach. I like the Falcons hiring Raheem Morris, but that's a risky decision when you had arguably the greatest coach of all time waiting to take the job.
I think the Falcons won't regret this. I'm not sure if we differ there, Zach or Zay. I think they made the right decision as far as hiring him, not only because I think he's a better coach than Bill Belichick, but I think I like the fact that he brought in Zach Robinson, to pair along with Kirk Cousins, who's more of a fit there. So, I like that dynamic better. And all Raheem Morris got to do is coach the team. And I think he could do just that. I think he's a great leader. When you get a guy like Bill Belichick, all you want is for him to coach the team. You don't want him to be the GM. You don't even want him on the same bus as the players because he's not player relatable. Okay. You just want him to coach the team and go home. That's it. And, I guess these teams fear that bringing in Belichick requires more than just that.
Well, I'll respond to that. I like the Morris hire, but I don't like the process of how they got there. Arthur Blank wanted to hire Bill Belichick. He, as you said, he interviewed him twice. The second time was for 4.5 hours. Bill Belichick told him, I just want to coach. I don't want to be the GM of this team. I think Arthur Blank was about to hire him, but then Robert Kraft called him up and is like, don't do it. Don't trust this guy. I don't like the process there. If you really wanted him, you should have hired him.
Yeah, I'm done. I don't really got nothing else to say. I think all points were good. I guess just in closing, man, I said it before on the show, and I'm going to say it again. I don't think Bill Belichick will coach in the NFL again. I think he's a dinosaur amongst the league. I think the league has changed a lot. The hiring process for coaches has changed. Player relatable coaches are the way to go, And what I mean by player relatable, I don't mean, because I said that they don't want the hard-nosed coaching, which I don't think they want. But if you're a player relatable and hard-nosed, then that's a good look too, because you have the Dan Campbell, who's a hard-nosed, but he's player relatable. You have the Mike Tomlin, who's player relatable, but a little bit hard-nosed, even though these days he's just sitting there, Mike Tomlin. But that's another topic for another day. But he's player relatable. Players want to play for him. So that's a different category. The Deion Sanders, in college, yeah, hard-nosed, but player relatable. Players relate to Deion Sanders because he act like a 20-year-old. With the designer stuff he wearing, the things he be saying, he act like one of them. So, yeah, that's where the league is going.
One last key point, Zay, before you hop in. Belichick believes he will be getting head coaching interviews next year. We'll see if he's proven right.
Good luck, Belichick. I hope that book you're writing goes well.
He's
write a couple more.
I'm telling you, you guys are going to see him watching the NFL draft next week on TV, and you're going to see him break down these players and say, "Man, who is this guy? He's pretty relatable." Watch his interview.
Zach, quick question
today. Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up as we close here on this topic because I'm about to ask a dumb question here, but I don't think it's so dumb. If you ask me, do you think there's any way that, let's say we do get a Cam, or is he going to be broadcasting the NFL draft by any chance?
Yeah, and he was
So
on
let's
Pat
say,
McAfee today.
okay, so if he broadcasts the NFL draft and he wows us with his X's and O's expertise and knowledge, do you think that in any way could help his stock getting a job in the future? Because we like, damn, this guy knows football.
Not only
go ahead, Zach.
I'll just say, not only do I think it's going to help, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I said it on the show, Lil, when we did that topic a couple months ago when it was announced that he wasn't getting the Falcons job. Yes, I don't think he's just – I know he loves football, but I don't think he's just doing it because he just wants to do it. Like, I think he has a plan up his sleeve. He plans on getting interviews next year. I think he's going to wow us. I think he's good on TV. Like, there aren't a lot of guys that are, but I think he is. And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by just how good of a job he does.
I think it's dangerous to give Bill Belichick a year off because he hasn't had a year off in 20 plus years. So now he gets to really watch the game and see what he can innovate. I think the best example is, I'm gonna switch the sport real quick, is Tom Thibodeau. When he didn't have a job for a while and then he came back to the Knicks, he changed his game completely. Not because of what he does, but how he does and how he kind of found ways to integrate new age philosophies into his hard-nosed presence and structures and what he preaches to the team. So I think Belichick just being able to watch like a year of football and just seeing all these other different offenses and how they operate, what's good, what's bad, and what's ugly, he could use that to then change around what he uses for his philosophies for the next team he goes to, and which I feel like he will go to one more team.
I mean, you mentioned NBA comparison. I like to consider Bill Belichick a comparison, comparing him to Nas in hip hop, in the sense that, remember when I started off my take of this whole entire topic, I said that GM Belichick always left a mess for head coach Belichick to coach. And I don't think we here, none of us, believe that he's just a bad coach. I think we still think that if we had to do a coaching ranking, it would probably still be top 5. Like, he's still a good coach. Like, specifically coaching, he's still a top 5, top 10 coach to me. However, just like with Nas, right? We always knew when he dropped Illmatic, he was one of them ones. He was like, yo, we was comparing him to Rakim, the next God MC, right? But then he started rapping on terrible beats. And that took away from, like, his credibility, because it's like, yeah, we know he could rap. He's lyrically a phenom, but, like, the beats is trash, so he's trash. But we all saw when he upped his, when he linked up with Hit Boy and he dropped the King's Disease album, that, yo, this guy's still fire. He still got lyrics. He's still one of them dudes. And I think that's the same thing with Bill Belichick. Yes, we know he can coach, but the roster is terrible, and that's why they're not winning games. So I think Coach Belichick is still a pretty decent coach.
Right. And that's why if you put him on a team like Dallas or a team like Philly that has a ton of talent and all he has to do is just coach them, I think it could work. I really do.
All right, man.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a question, something you may want answers, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.